So, did I have rapture anxiety? Is that the question?
Yeah. Or do you still have it?
Do I still? Well, not anymore. I don't know. But yeah, like they would show us like videos when we were kids in church of like what the rapture's like, and it could come whenever, so you need to like get right with God before, or else you can't be with your parents in heaven. You'd be left on earth to suffer. Yeah, so there's that. The judgment house. Um, yeah, it was like the church's type of like their version of like the haunted house kind of thing, where you would go in and they would have like different scenes set up. Um, it felt like a crappy Hallmark kind of movie, the cheesy action, like not action, but the cheesy plot lines and stuff. But yeah, it'd just be various scenes of people sinning or not sinning, and then they depicted a guy kill himself one time by swallowing pills, and then he got sent to hell for that. And of course, like you go in like the next room, and the room is, um, I think it was heaven, uh, and God's there, and God goes around and hugs each person, or I think it was Jesus, but anyways, yeah, Jesus goes around and hugs each person, welcomes them, and then people come in for judgment. Cue the name, the Judgment House, but they would come in for their judgment, and the first people would be like let into heaven. You can come in, you lived a good life, accepted Christ as your Savior, etc., etc. And then the people who weren't accepted in, they would come in and they would get dragged out of heaven by demons. Then you would go to hell, like the hell scene, and just they would have like, tracks of people screaming in like the background and all that, and it was just a lot for like a youth group to handle. Um, I got saved when I was like fucking 8 years old or something, and they separated the youth group by age. So I was in kids church, which is like ages 5 or 6 to I think 12. Um, I remember like one night we were having kids church, and she being the pastor's wife who was teaching kids church described hell as a place where worms crawl through your eye sockets to a group of like really young kids. And I was like, oh. And then she said, if you want to see your parents in heaven, you have to get saved. It's just really blatant fear tactics now, but it worked on a group of small children. Um, and not soon after, I you know became a Christian, and then I think a few years passed, and I realized, I don't know, I was doubting at that point because my brain was developing, and I was starting to look back and be like, oh, this maybe is not good, a good thing to be a part of. And then my grandma got Alzheimer's and slowly deteriorated and died. I got pressured into like getting more involved in the church, um, because they sold it as like some sort of like a support kind of group or something. But I don't really remember a whole lot of it. But I got more involved in the church, and eventually I did something called a rededication, which is where if you have been away from the church, you have to get rebaptized and rededicate yourself to God. So I did that, and then they made me talk about the impact that my grandma dying had on me on a stage in the baptismal tub. Like it was like a tub of water they dunk you in basically. But they put a mic on me and made me. I was like 13 at the time. They made me do that in front of like hundreds of people. So, and then of course, each time I thought about leaving, they would pull that card out. The oh well, like I'm sure like your grandma's smiling down from heaven. She's so proud that you came back, and just using that against me basically to keep me in there. And yeah, I mean, I'm sure there's dozens of things that I've forgotten or repressed. I don't know, I've kind of outgrown a lot of the guilt and the shame that came with no longer being a Christian. I still can't say to my parents' face or my family's face, hey, I don't believe in that, because then get you know disowned basically.